Hi, and welcome to the Daily Vent, a medical mom podcast. My name is Nicole, and I am your host. I am a mom to a beautiful 23-week miracle boy who turns 2 next week, this week when this episode comes out on April 17th, which is wild to even think about the fact that my child is going to be freaking 2. Granted, he's severely delayed from being born so early and living 16 months in the hospital. So in my mind, it's kind of like he's turning 1. But it's still so exciting. But today, we're not talking about John's birthday. That's a whole nother topic. But today, we're talking about home nursing. This is a topic that has been requested a lot by many people on social media have reached out to me asking every question under the sun about home nursing. How do we like it? How do we choose nursing? How do we choose the nurses? How does it work in your state? How much coverage do you get? How do you deal with the wildness of the freaking nurses that they send? Because some of them, I don't understand how they can even get the job. So we're going to go over all of that. I have a whole outline for this one, so hopefully it's not all over the place like all of my episodes are. I'm going to do my best. I am someone who rambles and gets distracted, so I do apologize for that ahead of time. But we're going to go ahead and start out with home nursing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because let's be honest, having people in your house all the time can just be very not fun. But it is a blessing, and I'm grateful for all of our home nurses. I'm going to start this episode out with a preference that we do really like our nursing agency, that all home nursing agencies are struggling right now because there is just such a shortage of home nursing. They just can't get the bodies. They can't get people to do it. The pay is not that good compared to in the hospital. There's just a lot of reasons, and I'm going to go over all the reasons of why there is such a shortage. But I do love our agency, and we have a great group of home nurses. So none of this is about really any of our nurses that we have on staff now. When I'm talking about a lot of these horror stories of nurses we've had, they are people that we have already let go and are no longer working with us. I don't want this episode to be a whole bash on nursing agencies and home nurses. So I'm just going to preface that with this. I am just being very, very honest with the truth about how home nursing works and all of the quirks, good, bad, ugly things that come with it. So the first topic is how to find the right agency. So at first, when John was first discharged, we went with the first agency that the hospital suggested to use and had gotten us in touch with, which was Maxim. You might have Maxim and they might be great for you, but here in Florida, Maxim is the fucking worst. Never work with Maxim if you live in Florida, especially Tampa. The issue, though, with all home nursing agencies, and you might have found this already if you've worked with them, is they're very much like car salesmen. It's like you're going to a dealership, which for me is the worst experience. I absolutely hate. I'd rather go to the DMV than a car dealership. Okay. I can't stand car salesmen. I can see right through them. I can smell them and I hate them. It's very much like that. So be prepared for that. What I will tell you though is like a car dealership, you need to shop around. See who can give you the best and who you feel most comfortable with. Because this isn't just, it is like a car. It's something that's going to keep your child safe. And so you want to get the best car for the best, I guess, bang for your buck, although you're not paying for home nursing. This is a really bad analogy. Anyway, what I suggest is to meet with all of the different agencies. So your hospital is going to try and just tell you to use the one that they use the most. Sometimes these people have contracts with them, which they won't tell you, and it's really shady. So don't just go with that one. Ask them for all the other ones that are in the area. Meet with them. They'll come to your house. They'll come to the hospital. They'll do a phone call with you, meet with whoever these directors are or whatever these people are. For them, it's making money. Every case they get more and more money from the government. So it's all about profit for them. So they're going to try and sell you. And that's great. That's how the world goes around, is money. But you need to be very stern and straightforward with them and explain to them, this is your child. This is not just another number for them. And kind of be intense, because then they're going to take you seriously. For instance, we were with Maxim. They were awful. They lied about everything. They could not find us nurses, but they kept saying it was an insurance issue, and it wasn't. It was just that they didn't have nursing. They only sent us a few nurses in 2-week time span. One couldn't get off the floor. she said EMS will have to be called if she gets on the floor. That's not going to work. Another one had to sit on 2 heating pads because she was so anemic and literally was like shivering the whole time. And then the other one's car kept breaking down and could never make it to the shift. So it was a shit show. And I eventually they kept lying and saying they had the perfect person in mind. They're going to say that to you all the time. I have the perfect person in mind already. But do you? But do you really? Because I don't think you do. So I ended up getting in touch with the current nursing agency that we have right now. And I called him, and this was on, days and days and days of no sleep, on edge, no nursing at home with my very unstable child. And I basically said to this guy, don't fucking give me bullshit. Do you have nurses or do you not? Do you have PRN, trach, and vent? That's very important too. Not just home nurses. You need trach and vent. If your child is a trach and vent, there's a big difference between someone who is trained to do G-tube and just basic stuff and then trach and vent. It is 2 different worlds. And I said to him, like, do not tell me that you have people if you don't. Like, and I'm like, are you a dad? Because imagine if this was your kid. Like, I need help. I am desperate. And I was like crying, but also yelling at him on the phone. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so if you don't have people in mind that can PRN until you hire on more people, please just do me the service of of just being honest, because I can go find another agency that has that. And I don't have time to transfer and do the whole transfer process, go to you and you have nobody. And he was like, okay, give me 2 hours. Let me call my team and see, and I will give you the most honest reply. And he did what he had to do. And he called me back. He's like, listen, and he was so honest about it. And he had people lined up ready to go. The only problem was switching from one agency to the other. You have to get like a dismissal letter and then you have to refile. It's a whole thing with Medicaid. So he was honest that it was going to take like at least 2 weeks to get it switched over, but he would have people set up in those 2 weeks. Well, then John coded at home again and ended up going back to the hospital. So it was a whole thing. Anyway, with him, I never felt the car salesman. I never felt it with him. He was always so straightforward and so honest, and I always respected that and appreciated that. And so this gentleman we still work with to this day. He's the director of this agency. He's great, and he's really what holds the glue of this agency together, because to be honest, it's kind of a shit show elsewhere, but we have found that that's the case in every home nursing agency, because they're just so short-staffed, and these people in the management positions are like chickens with their head cut off trying to manage all these people that's in and out of the door, and they also need like 5 people to do their job, but they're one person. So I try to give them grace, because it is a hard industry to be in. The next thing I will say when you're trying to find an agency is, if you know local moms, if you've met other moms at the hospital that you're at who have gone home and have home nursing, ask them who they have, ask them how their experience has been, not just with getting the nurses, but how's the experience with the upper management people who are helping to schedule and stuff like that? Are they good at communicating? Are they honest? Do they lie a lot? Stuff like that. Ask the questions. If you're in a local mom group or something online for medical moms, you can ask those questions as well. Hey, what nursing agencies do you guys use? What area are you in? Because like we're in North Tampa, so it's harder to find nurses up here versus if we lived in like Tampa or like main Tampa, like Carrollwood or right by the hospital. It'd be easier to find people because it's more centrally located, I guess. So more people from different suburbs can come to you. Whereas we're in North Tampa. So if somebody lives in like South Tampa, like it's a long drive for them up here. Versus if you're in the middle, it's like half the time. The last tip I would give is to check Indeed or like Glassdoor, different things online, and see what these jobs are posted as. So for instance, let's just say Maxim, go on there, look up Maxim home nursing jobs and see what they're listed for pay. And then look up a different agency and see what they're listed for pay. Whoever pays more probably is going to have better nurses, because they're going to attract better quality nurses, people who are used to being paid that high from the hospital. That's something I would really suggest. And then if like, for instance, if this one has like 30 openings and the other one has 10, well, I would think the one with 30 openings is probably struggling to find people for a reason and the other one's not. So that's something to look into as well. let's get into the reasons that the nurse pool might not be the best. So, obviously, number one is the low pay. I mean, these nurses make probably like, it depends on your state, but like I think they start at like 32 an hour, maybe max of 40. And if you're, used to working in the hospital, the pay is usually significantly more. So the pay is definitely one of them. And also, I think, I mean, a decent amount of them are actually RNs, but a lot of them are LPNs and stuff like that. So I don't know what those pays would be. But yeah, the pay and the benefits is definitely one of them. Um, Another one is you really only have to have low qualifications to become a home nurse. So you could be an LPN. I don't know if you can be a nurse, a CRNA. I think you could be a CRNA or an RN, and they don't have to like tell the family either if they're an actual RN or whatever. They just say, I have a nurse. They call them all nurses. So I don't know what kind of training they have. They can claim that they're trach and vent trained, and all they did was take one trach class with the home nursing agency during orientation. You don't know what you're getting. I mean, to be honest, these nursing agencies are so desperate that sometimes you just kind of have to have a pulse, and that's really it. You have low. That's why the pool is not that good. The qualifications are really low to be one, um, and it's kind of unfortunate. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of really qualified home nurses, and all the ones that we have are super qualified, and we have had to weed out the other ones, but it does take time. And there are some nurses that might not be that qualified, but they'd be great for just a simple G-tube case or cases that aren't as complex as John, if that makes sense. But for someone that is trach and vent dependent, you need serious qualifications in order to be a home nurse for them. And sometimes these agencies will just throw anybody at them because they need to throw a body. And, parents sometimes will just take anybody either. And that's okay because they need help. And another reason that you don't see a lot of people wanting to be a home nurse or really qualified people is because it's really sad. A lot of these situations are not happy, or not a good home life or safe home life. I have heard horror stories from some of these home nurses of really not clean environments, toxic families, toxic parents, toxic marriages, unsanitary conditions, roaches, stuff like that. Places that you just wouldn't want to work. So why would a lot of home nurses want to do this job if it's not guaranteed to be a safe and clean environment? Some people will start out in home nursing and they get a bad taste in their mouth because they get put with a really interesting family right away, stuff like that. It makes sense. When you go to the hospital, everything is, for the most part, has different qualifications and standards that have to be met. Whereas when you're in someone else's home, it's, what's clean to them is probably sometimes not clean to someone else. We have some nurses that are really, I mean, we keep our house very clean. I try to stay on top of it as much as possible. Yes, we get clutter and stuff like that, but it's not dirty. But we do have some nurses that are much more clean freaks than others and will wear gloves in the bathroom when opening knobs and wipe the whole bathroom down with purple wipes before they even use the restroom. Like, everyone has their different level of standards. So it depends personally what you are comfortable with. I am someone who, I don't get grossed out that much by things, but I would definitely get grossed out if I went to someone's houses and there's roaches and ants, and like, I wouldn't want to sit on the floor. And with a lot of these kids, you're on the floor all day with them. So I understand that aspect. Another issue is these agencies, the management are just, they're just so much for them to deal with that they're so busy and things get slipped through the cracks, and they lose a lot of good nurses because they just can't keep up with the demand of things and answering questions and making sure everyone has their benefits. And it just happens. Like, they're just so overrun. And that's another reason why. I mean, and that's just the whole healthcare industry in general. The next thing I would suggest when it comes to home nursing is you need to do meet and greets. Don't just have somebody come out and it's their first shift, you've never met them before, and work an entire 12-hour shift. When you first come home, you might do this a little bit more. You might just have people come out for shifts because you need help right away. And so you don't really have time for meet and greets. Sometimes you could do meet and greets before your child comes home from the hospital, but a lot of the times the nurses, when they do meet and greets, they want to come and meet the the child as well. So it's kind of impossible to do a meet and greet until you're home. So you might have sometimes the first couple weeks where you have someone come for a shift and you've never met them. And then you just have to kind of deal with it then. But we learned the hard way after having many weeks of just nurses coming and taking the word of the agency that they were super good or trained or whatever. And they would show up and they would literally be the worst thing ever. And then I'm stuck with them for 11 and a half hours after discovering in the first 30 minutes that they knew nothing. So meet and greets are really, really, really important. For instance, we had one nurse walk in and within the first 10 minutes, I was going over all of our protocols with her and showing her all of the signage on the walls and where oxygen tanks were and what we do in the event of an emergency. We have a big sign on the wall that says DSAT protocol and has all the different steps. As I started to go over with it, she quickly looks at me, very confused, and says, I had no idea that you could desat on the vent. I thought that being on the vent stops you from being able to desat. That's interesting. Guys, this was a nurse that has claimed that she has lots of trach and vent experience and has worked with trach and vent kids before, was very confident when she came in. And then when she said that, I didn't know what to say, and I watched her like a hawk the rest of the day and then called the agency when it was over and said, I don't think I'd like to have her back. There was other things that happened during the day as well where she just didn't exactly know what she was doing. But right off the bat, if you're claiming to be trach and vent and you don't know that one basic rule, I'm like, why the fuck would I have you here then? Why would I have any nursing if you couldn't desat on the vent? That'd be great if you couldn't desat on the vent. None of these kids would need nursing. When you do a meet and greet, you want to ask them questions. You want to show them all the equipment, see how they react, see how their confidence is. You want to take them around the house, show them your equipment room, show them the vent, show them different things. Ask them if they've ever used certain things before. Hey, have you ever used a shaky vest before? Have you ever used the Valero system before? Have you ever done inline suction before? Ask them if they know how to do it. See how confident they seem. You can usually tell if somebody is lying. I would rather have a nurse say, I've never done that before. I've done it on an adult, but I've never done that before. But can you teach me? I'm willing to learn. Some of these people will be trained in certain things, but not everything. And you can teach them. If you have the time and the patience, you can teach people the basics of different trach things that are related to your child and see how fast of a learner they are. We have had some nurses, like one of John's best nurses that we have 3 days a week. She is incredible. She had only worked with adults before with trachs and vents in the hospital setting, never in home care. So she's newer to home care. But she was so honest about the fact that she hadn't done it before, but she's a quick learner and she wanted to learn and she was open to it. And she asked so many questions and it was amazing. She was asking everything I did. She said, can you show me that? What are you doing there? Like, she didn't just sit there and watch me do things. She was like on it. She wanted to know exactly what I was doing it and why I was doing it. And then the next time I was doing it, she asked if she could do it so that she could see if she was doing it right. And I knew immediately just from the meet and greet with her and her first shift that she was going to be great. And sometimes it's just a gut thing too. You just kind of know. But then there are some people who you'll say, do you know this? And they're like, they do this little like, and then when you let them go do it the next time or whatever, and they can't even do it right, or they're asking you, it gets frustrating. And we try to give people a couple shifts. So we do a meet and greet. Within those 30 minutes or an hour of meet and greet, I can usually tell right away. Not going to be a good fit. You're not qualified and you don't know enough, right? I can tell that right away. Sometimes there are some people where it's like you're borderline. You have potential. You're very kind. You're very nice. You seem like you know the basics, but not quite comfortable with it yet. And you could learn more, but let's give you a shot. Okay. And I will let the agency know that. We'll give them a shot. I'll usually give them a couple shifts. If after the third shift, they're just not getting it and they're not stepping up, they're not asking questions, they're not taking initiative, then we let them go. But we give them a chance. And then there's some people where they're great. I love them within 30 minutes. I feel really confident. But I will say when they do start their shift, I still watch them like a hawk. I still am there. I still walk them through everything because I don't want to just leave them out to dry. I don't want to be like, all right, peace out. I'm going to go run errands and get some stuff done. Like, I want them to be completely set up for success. So that is something that I definitely recommend. Meet and greets. You'll kind of know right away. It's better than having somebody come, you hate them, you don't see a future of having them in your house, you don't see that they would be able to learn certain things within a few shifts. Then you're stuck 11 and a half hours watching them and your child. It's just too much. And some people will maybe say differently. Some people will say give them more than 3 shifts. Sure, that is something that you could do, but my opinion on that also is if you give someone 2 weeks and it's still not getting better, you just wasted 2 weeks where the agency could be hiring somebody else or finding you someone else or having trial somebody else in your house during that time where you just wasted on someone that's just not going to get it. I feel like it's a gut thing. You can kind of tell right away if someone's either cut out for it or not. I think living in the hospital so long, you can just kind of tell if someone can do it or not. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I like to think I give people a lot of grace. So you know what? I'm going to be kind to myself. I'm a nice person. Okay. All right. Move on. Going back to teaching trach related things. You can teach trach related stuff, but you can't teach nursing 101. This is not a time to teach nursing 101. For instance, we had a nurse who, very sweet girl. She was an RN. Very sweet girl. I asked her what John was satting. Okay, satting, if you're not a medical parent, I don't know why you're listening to this, but thank you for listening. But satting is saturations, what your oxygen saturations are. So a typical person would sat 96 to 100 normal, right? You can't go higher than 100. John needs to be 94 or above. I asked her, what's he satting? Because I couldn't see the monitor and I was working on my computer. She said, 131. I said, no, satting. And she said, yeah, 131. And I said, no, what are his saturations? And she said, what do you mean? I said, his oxygen saturations, then the other number, the oxygen saturations. And she just didn't understand. And this was like the 3rd or 4th day I had this girl here. I had already shown her how to do everything. She never asked questions, never tried to take initiative. And then finally, when I let her give the meds the one day, I was watching her do it and I was just trying to see if she'd fix her mistake, but she didn't close the other side of the G-tube extension and all the meds just came right out. And I was like, have you ever done this before? And she's like, no, I've never done this before. And I was like, okay. And in my head, I'm thinking, you've been watching me do this for the past like 3 or 4 days. So things like that. You try to be patient, but at a certain point, if you don't know what satting is, how are you going to help me if he's desatting? You can't teach nursing 101. You can't teach basic G-tube stuff. I mean, you can teach basic G-tube stuff. Okay, don't get me wrong. That one's really fucking simple to teach G-tube stuff. But you just can't teach basic nursing stuff. Like what to do when someone's coding or desatting. Like if you don't know like the basics of CPR and stuff, like we're not there to teach you CPR. Like you should know CPR before you come in my house. I can teach you how to bag on a trach. You know, some people have never bagged on a trach or they've never changed a trach, but they've seen it. And so I can teach you how to change a trach and do all that stuff. But just basic nursing 101, can't teach it. You don't have time for it. Life is already busy enough to be an educator. Okay. Oh, another thing. If you have a meet and greet set up and the nurse continues to cancel the meet and greet, reschedule the meet and greet, stuff like that, it's probably not going to work out in the future. Just a sign. We've had so many meet and greets scheduled and like they like never happen because there's always something that comes up with this person and blah, blah, blah. Probably not a good idea. So usually if they've canceled like 3 times, then we're like, all right, just don't bother coming. Like I said before, not every nurse they send you is going to be trach and vent trained. I would hope that an agency would only send trach and vent trained people, and typically they do, but people lie because they want the higher paying job. So sometimes in certain agencies, a nurse that does trach and vent patients gets paid more than just a nurse who does simpler cases. Does that make sense? Just make up a name. Shelly might take a trach and vent class at Maxim during orientation. It's a 30-minute long class on basic trach and vent stuff. Now Shelly is trach and vent trained in her mind and in the agency's mind. 30 minutes on a dummy? It's not really trained. You don't know the basics of much at all. But if they're a fast learner and they ask questions and they really want to learn it, you can usually pick up on that right away and take advantage of that. Next topic. Be picky but not too picky. Okay? Now, this is confusing. One thing that you can be 1,000% picky on, and never, ever, 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 ever apologize for being picky on this, is safety. Your child has fought too fucking hard and made it home for something to go wrong because of a negligent nurse at home. And somebody that you keep around because A, you're afraid to fire them because you feel bad. B, you just really want coverage, so you keep them even though you know that they're not the best or knowledgeable. Like, you don't ever want that to fall back on you. Trust your gut. And if they are not someone who can 100% keep your child safe, they have no spot in your house. There's no point in having a body there just to say you have coverage. There's no point. Jordan and I's rule is, if a code was to happen, an emergency was to happen, if you are more of a hindrance than a help, there is no reason for you to fill that shift. It would be better for me to be by myself and not have to deal with someone awkwardly living in the living room with me and staring at me and just whatever than to have you there. I think I just said that wrong. It's not worth it. If you feel like you are watching two people, your child and the nurse, not a good fit. It's already hard enough to watch your child, and if you're constantly having to watch another person and monitor them, that's not how it's supposed to be. The nurse is supposed to be there to be helpful, and if it's only causing you more stress and you're never able to let your guard down and feel 1,000% that they're keeping them safe, then they're probably not equipped for it. So it's okay to let those people go. You can be picky when it comes to safety, but you can't be picky when it comes to personality. And that's hard because this is your house, it's your life, and it's hard to have people in your house on a weekly basis that either can annoy you or drive you crazy or argue with you. Like, that's hard. It is very hard. But the pros of having help with your child who is 100% dependent and needs 24/7 wake and alert eyes, the pros outweigh the cons. It's worth dealing with a lot of different personalities and not having the help, in my opinion, and I would say in most medical moms' opinions. Not every nurse is going to be your best friend. You might find a few that are amazing and you literally feel like you're hanging out with a friend all day with your child. That's great. I have that with a few people. It's great. But not all of them are going to be your best friend. You're going to have some nurses who you would never hang out with in the real world. They might talk too much. They might not talk at all. They might argue with you on certain things and just like be very set in their ways. They might be loud and obnoxious. All these different things. Do they keep your child safe? Do they alert you when things are going wrong? They keep you in the loop? Do they make your child happy? Do they feed your child? Do they take care of your child? Do they show up on time and show up for shifts? Yes? Great. Then you keep them because all of the pros of having them outweighs the con of you just sometimes being annoyed with them or not being sometimes happy with having people in your house. Because let me tell you, as soon as those people call out because they're sick or they're on vacation or whatever, you're going to be fucking begging and wishing that they were there. You can't be picky about personality. These nurses have great personalities. Some of them have none. Some of them literally like to argue about everything. It's hard. It is really frustrating to be in your house and it be your kid and having someone else's say in how to raise your kid. It's really hard. But part of me thinks that like I'm somewhat used to it because he lived in the hospital for so long. So I never really felt like a parent till he came home. And I still sometimes don't feel like a parent. And I feel like I'm co-parenting with the medical system. So I think maybe I'm used to it. I think if it was just someone who was a mom for a while and then their kid became a medical child, it'd be drastically different. Know that for personality reasons, you can't be that picky. But if they're like a toxic person and it's just so overwhelmingly toxic to you to have them in your house mentally and it's just causing more issues than good, then make that call then, obviously. But you just can't be picky with that. You also can't be picky with your pool that you're going to take from, right? So let's say you really want anyone you only want people under 35 and they have to be female and they have to speak Spanish. Well, your pool of people is like 5 people versus if you had it under 60 female whatever language they speak, like 60 people to choose from. Jordan and I have a rule. The only rule we have is no men. That's just because we've had really bad experiences with male home nurses. The male nurses in the hospital were phenomenal, so it's nothing against that. It's just we have not yet have a good male home nurse. We've had many bad ones, and so my husband at a certain point was like, I just don't like you being at home alone with the guy, and it just is uncomfortable for him, and I get it, and I also am uncomfortable with it, so that's fine. And to be honest, there's not many male home nurses, so it's not something that we're really like losing out on. Choose your battles. It goes back to the personality thing. You're going to have some nurses that do something very odd compared to other nurses of how they feed them or how they wash something, or I don't know, how they organize something. But is it really that big of a deal? Is it worth bringing up sometimes? No. I honestly will only bring things up with nurses if it's a safety issue. If someone is nice enough to fold his clothes and put them away, and they folded them a weird way, or they put something in the wrong spot, I don't say shit. I leave it as is, or I just fix it myself. I'm just so grateful for help. That's about it. The only time I have issues is if like someone repeatedly does something after I've told them, hey, like, can you just not touch that or leave that alone? Which most people don't do that, but that's the only time I ever really get annoyed. The thing is, like in marriage, you got to pick your battles. Like, do I really want to argue with you about like not unloading the dishwasher? Is it really worth it? No, probably not. Can I do it if I really want to start a fight and be uncomfortable? Yeah, I can. But will I regret it? Yeah. So just choose your battles. Like, is him unloading the dishwasher going to like burn our house down? Like if he doesn't do it? No. So very much take a deep breath when it comes to having people in your house, because it's really hard. It is really hard to have people in your house, but it is such a blessing. And I really want to reiterate, like, this is not bashing our nurses or home nursing. Like, home nursing is great. I love home nursing and I'm so grateful for it. I'm just telling you everything, kind of all the bad stuff, so that you're prepared for it, because I knew none of this beforehand. I've just had to learn the hard way. So we're going to go into the pros of home nursing. So obviously the first one is a needed break. This is fucking hard being a medical parent. It is full time. You are working 10 different jobs. You're a social worker, an RT, a nurse, environmental services, which is cleaning up your house. You're also a mom. You're also a wife. Also just want to be a friend and a daughter. And you have to make appointments, and you have to take them here and there. And you still need a grocery shop, and you might have pets, and you might have other kids. It's hard. It's a lot of work. You don't get a break unless you have trained help. You can have your mom or someone come over, and they might be trained in it, but like my mom knows basics of trach stuff, and so does my mother-in-law. But would I like leave John in the living room with them while I went and took a nap in my room? Probably not. And they probably wouldn't be comfortable with that either. You really just need a break, and you need help. Another pro is if you are an RN or you are a LPN, I forget what else you could be. You can, depending on what state you're in, what the agency are, you can work for the agency, and I think work up to like 40 hours a week and get paid to watch your kid. Not getting a break, but you're also getting paid, which is really nice. Another pro is you can sleep. If you have nursing at night, you can sleep, which is like, oh my God, I love sleep. So nursing at night is the best thing ever, because you can sleep and get a couple hours of sleep at least. I struggle to sleep at night. I have severe PTSD, so I get a few hours, and that's a win for me. It's helpful for your marriage because you can actually get alone time. Jordan and I will be able to hide in our room and watch a TV show while someone plays with John. It is nice, whereas we normally would not get that if we didn't have a nurse. It's also a larger village for your child. To be honest, having a healthy child, it takes a village. Having a medical child, it is very hard to find a village, because your village has to be specifically trained in certain things. So having this group of people who really understand what it takes to care for a child like this is really nice to have around. And a lot of these home nurses become, friends and family almost. So it's a larger village for you and your family. And who doesn't want that? If you have other kids, it's nice because you can take a break and go outside with your other kids and make sure your other kids get attention, because it's got to be hard. I don't have other kids, but I can't even imagine. It's got to be hard on them. It's got to be hard on you and them, and you don't get a lot of alone time and one-on-one time with them. So having a nurse allows you to do that. Get housework done. I'm able to, on days that I have a nurse, I literally will schedule out all the things I'm going to do. So if I have a nurse that day, I'm going to get these blends done. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a couple social media posts. I'm going to clean up my house. I'm going to go grocery shopping. Like, I plan everything out for when I have nursing. On days that I have no nurse, I plan nothing because I can't even make a meal because John is on the move and it's impossible. He literally tries to take his trach out all day long, which is a blessing. I'm not complaining about it. I love that my son is like so mobile that he's literally pulling his trach out all the time. Super blessing. I'm very happy about it, but it's hard. It's just hard. You can't look away. You can't even pee. And I can't like pick him up and take him to the bathroom with me. So I have to like lock him in a high chair just to go pee and then come back and he's crying because he's mad because I locked him in a high chair and he's not eating. On errands, we still depends on who the nurse is, but like it depends on how far away. We still don't leave John alone really with a nurse without one of us here. Just for emergency purposes, it's better to have two people than one if something was to go wrong. And we're just not quite there yet. And that's okay. Some people might come home, meet a nurse, have a couple shifts, and then be like, peace out. I'm going to go do something, go on a date night. And that's all preference. But Jordan and I are just not quite there yet. We're just not. Less tasks you have to have eventually when they first came home, I didn't let anyone do shit. I didn't let them touch shit. But eventually nurses kind of stepped up and just started doing it after watching me do it for so long because they're like, girl, you can't do this by yourself. You need help. And that is what eventually I did. And back to the emergency thing. If there's an emergency happening, you need to do CPR bag. Having two people is so much better than just being by yourself. Cons of home nursing is kind of what we talked about already. Not much privacy, but a lot of these nurses done this for a while, a lot of them. And so they're really good at like, if you have family members over, a lot of them are good at just like kind of sitting over in their area and just, sitting on their phone and doing other things to stay busy while we kind of have family time or something like that. A lot of them know how to kind of stay in their lane and give us the privacy. And so that's really nice when they're like that. Night nurses really know how to give privacy. So like if you want to get it on with your husband, you can. They're not going to judge you. You are still a human and, husband and wife, and you got to do the deed eventually. So they've got to know that it's going to happen, and you just kind of be quiet and be respectful. But I talked about this on our marriage podcast, but I'm just being very honest here. So, there's not much privacy, but with time, the more comfortable you get with them, the more privacy you feel like you have. A stressful process to start, dealing with Medicaid and doing all the paperwork and starting it out. Trying to find people at the beginning is really hard. It took us about 5 months to get to the nurses that we really like. We probably let go 15, 20 people in that time period, and that's okay. Mentally as a mom, it's really hard. It's really hard as a mom to have constant help at home. I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I never expected to have like help or babysitters, like needing that. And so mentally it's really hard to accept that I'm not capable of caring for my child by myself. I am. I 100% could do it on my own if I really had to, but I don't know how mentally sane I would be to have help. But it is hard to accept that sometimes. And a lot of these nurses are really good at allowing you to still feel that autonomy, which is really nice. If you're a people pleaser, it's going to be really difficult for you. It just is. So don't take anything personally, and remember the number one rule. You can be picky about safety. Be picky about safety. You're allowed to be picky about safety. And the other thing is keeping the house tidy. Hard sometimes to always keep the house tidy, but in a way it's kind of a blessing because it makes me keep the house clean because we constantly have people in it and you don't want people to see your house absolutely disgusting. So that's kind of a pro in my opinion. The other thing is some nurses will like try to tell you, or agencies like, oh, you don't want to fire a lot of people or be too picky because you're going to get like this stigma that there's something wrong with your house, or like that's why you can't get nurses because it's a personal thing and not like whatever. Some moms will reach out to me and be like, I've been warned not to be too picky. No. It's a safety. You can be picky. The real good nurses who are good home nurses, they are not going to prejudge you. They will come and see the house for themselves and see what the reality of it is. In my opinion, the pros outweigh the cons of having home nurses by a lot. You need help. You need help. It's hard. And even if you can get like 2 shifts covered a week, if you can get a couple nights a week covered, if you can get one good day nurse for a couple of days, like any help is so nice. Anything. I am really grateful right now. We have like, I think 1 day a week not covered, and then a few nights a week that we always pray someone a PRN picks up of our PRN pool. But we have a couple days a week that are not covered. I complain because I'm so grateful for what we have. In Florida, we have a paid caregiver program that's supposed to start soon. Florida's not the best for disabled families and medical families. But there's like a lot of different states that allow this, where you can sign up with the agency, go through a training, and then you get paid hourly to watch your kids. So if you can't get a nurse to cover that shift, you can be the nurse essentially without being an RN or a CRNA or a LPN. But it's like 14 an hour or like 15 an hour. It's a joke, but it's better than nothing if you can't work anyway. I literally can't work. So, I mean, that's basically it. I'm not trying to scare anybody away from home nursing. I just want everyone to be very realistic with what comes with it, and that patience is what you need to start with, because it's going to be a long process. It is not going to be, I come home and I have 24/7 coverage right away of people that I love and people that know what the fuck they're doing. No, you're going to have so many nurses come in and out of your house that you let go, that aren't a good fit, that just don't work, or that call out all the time. Like, it's going to happen. It took, like I said, almost 5 months to get us to where we are now with the nursing group that we have. I went months with no coverage, maybe like 1 or 2 shifts covered a week, months, but I made it work. And I think that also made me more grateful for the nurses that we have now, because I know how hard it is and how exhausting it is to do it on your own. My husband works full time, so it's just me. And, at night, it was me doing night shift too, because he works. He has to sleep. He has to go to work. He works in law enforcement. He can't be tired for a job like that. You do the best that you can. In certain states, it's really hard to find nursing. If you're in small towns, it's difficult. So you do the best you can. I will say it is possible to go home without nursing, depending on how stable your kid is. Don't let that keep you from going home. You can do it. Good village around you too. If your husband or partner is really involved and you have family members that can get trained and can help, definitely do that. I wouldn't let it keep you from coming home, but just be realistic of, how stable is your child? Are you able to sleep when your child sleeps? There are many trach families who have no other options, and they sleep right next to their kid at night. And if we didn't have help, we probably would eventually have to do that as well, because you have to sleep at night and you can't go 7 days a week with no sleep. It's not possible. You'll die. That is basically everything about home nursing, the good, the bad, the ugly. And home nursing is great. It's a blessing. We are very happy that we have found some great nurses. We are very grateful. I really like our agency that we're with. The director of it is phenomenal. If you have any more questions, reach out to me. I really hope that this is helpful. Remember, patience, patience, patience. Take it one day at a time. Shop around. Be straightforward with the people when you're shopping around, and be picky when it comes to safety, but personality-wise, kind of can't be that picky. Unless you're in a state or a town where there's like nurses, home nurses galore, you can. But where we are, we aren't. So that is it. Thank you for being here today on the Daily Vent.